Hi, welcome to another episode of Conversations with Eminent Women. I am Tsehohajo Moagi, and you know it, on the show, we speak to women doing phenomenal things in their spaces. Today, I've got the honor of speaking to Mangwashi Victoria Phiyega. She was on our screens a few years ago. She was our police commissioner a few years ago, but she continues to do things that lead to a safer South Africa, known as Riah Phiyega, joining us today. Riah, good afternoon. Thank you for your time.
Thank you ever so much, Tsihuat, for inviting me to this podcast platform.
Let's talk about who Riah Phiyega is.
Thank you very much for that question. Riah Phiyega is a woman who's born from Limpopo. I come from a rural village called Lishuani, just a mountain after the University of the North, Tefluop village. Grew up there, born of parents who were teachers, who invested a lot in education. I'm part of a half dozen girls from that family. I'm the second in that family. So we're a family of girls. We had a very good father who instilled in all of us that we can do anything that any other person can do, men or women. And we were brought up in that fashion. I then moved on to Lulu High School after doing my primary school in Tefluop. We moved to Beggersford, where my father was starting a high school there. The chief had called him to assist in putting together a high school which they didn't have in that entire region. So he's put up that school and later decided that he would like to show others that he trusts the school. He sent us to that school. He became an inspector and then went back to Polokwane. So that's where I did my high school. And then after that, I then went to the University of the North, where I studied social work. And after my social work graduation, I then came to Pretoria. I joined child welfare at Richfield, where I stayed for a while, and about 7 years, my first years of the career. And by the time I left there, I was already ahead of that particular agency. I was also at that time appointed by UNISA to train their student social workers. It was a first to have an off-site unit with more students than just one. So they set up a unit at Ridgefield to do that. I then was recruited by the Chamber of Mines, where we were starting a wellness center at the Chamber of Mines for the member mines. I stayed there for about 3 years, and then I was then called by the National Council for Child Welfare, recalled me to come and be the first director for development, because they were doing a lot of, what shall I call, counseling type services. And the realization was coming that you can't counsel people out of poverty. We need to start introducing development work. And at that time, that was when the IDT was being established, and agencies were encouraged to, establish development work and whatever. When I was there, I was then recruited by Transnet. And Transnet wanted to, I was invited to come and address, I think it was their top 50 management, executive management on development initiatives. One of their board members was our board member at Child Welfare, so she recommended me to do that. And then after that, the CEO of Transnet approached me to say, I want you to join Transnet, and I want you to help us establish the foundation of Transnet.
Okay.
So that's where when I went to Transnet, my first years at Transnet was around establishing the Transnet Foundation, and that's where we were doing the pillar purpose of this world, the School of Excellence, where we were doing the mobile theatre tracks that you're starting to see here, where we were doing, the choral competitions and all those. So I established that. So as I developed and they were looking at transformation for women and all that, I was then appointed to go and be one of the executives. Now I was moving to maritime. At that time, we were preparing the maritime sector for South Africa, because post 1994, we needed to align our port and maritime services to the global way things were done. And we had to separate the landlord services as well as the operation services. So we were tasked with that. We did that, and that resulted in the Port Authority and the port operations, and I was one of the executives that were involved in that one. And then I was then approached by the board of Transnet to say, we would like you to come back to the corporate center to come and be our group executive for corporate affairs. So I went back to Transnet to become a group executive for corporate affairs. When I was there, and I think it was when Maria Ramos came, then I had to leave. I was approached by APSA to come and be their group executive for corporate affairs. And when I got there, we were busy with the merger with Barclays. So I participated very actively in that merger process as an executive, merging APSA with Barclays. From there, I then was appointed to lead the transformation of SOEs. So I was appointed by the president then, President Zuma at the point, to be chair of a committee that was going to look at the transformation of state-owned enterprises. We did a lot. We produced a very solid report, and I truly believe of the 33 recommendations that we made, if the SOEs of this country had just implemented a third of those, we would be talking a completely different story in terms of that. And it was at that point, I didn't know President Zuma from anywhere. I got to know him when I was doing the state-owned enterprises. It was at that point when we were just finalizing our report, ready for printing, ready for release, that he invited me to ask me, would you assist us by being the National Commissioner of Police? And I said, what do you mean? I have no clue what is happening in the police service. We had long conversations, and I asked a lot of questions, and I spoke to many people. And at that point, the president said to me, you don't understand what I'm looking for. And I said, make me understand. And he said, I've looked at your profile. You are a very seasoned general manager and a leader of organizational transformation. The National Commissioner of Police is a DG. And he said to me, police are not short of policing skills. They are steeped in policing skills. He said at that point in time what he was looking for is somebody with astute administration, governance, and management processes in order, and strategic direction giving, in order to work with the minister to give the organization that skill, that empowerment. And it took me time, and when I spoke to my personal coach, when I spoke to everybody, and they said, do you not have those skills? Look at your own CV. And indeed, I couldn't say I don't have. Once he mentioned that, then I said, okay, I understand. And I went to the police, and indeed, it was true. Because you have the head of DPCI, who's a seasoned, detective and somebody who knows what to do. You have the head of intelligence, who's a seasoned person who knows what to do. You have the head of policing, you have a head of forensic services, and indeed all those people are steeped in policing. And if you look at what a DG does, it's a completely different whatever. The DG is not involved in direct policing. Those people are involved in that. And he was right. And if you ask me, if I had an opportunity and be asked to say, can you do it again? I'll say yes. And when I looked, and he said to me, look at the trend we've been following. Jackie Silebi was a teacher and a seasoned DG who came, who came from Foreign Affairs. Becky Kelly was a teacher. Petros in Gauteng was a maths teacher. So he kept on saying to me, at an administrative level, we're not looking for that. We're looking for somebody with the capacity to lead administratively, governance, strategically, the organization. And it made a whole lot of sense. And I would still say it makes a whole lot of sense. And if you look at the army, how they dealt with it, they have two wings. They have a general who is leading the army, who is army based. And then they have the secretariat, and then it is led by a civilian. So that philosophy does make sense. You have to blend the two. You must find the capacity for policing. You must find the capacity for administration of that institution. It's a big institution. That institution, I mean, at the time I was there, we were managing anything like 90 billion to 100 billion rand per annum. It is an organization that was having a fleet of over 50,000 cars. It was an organization that had close to 200,000 employees. So administratively and all those, it's a significant organization. When you talk of the CEO, because the DG is the CEO of that entity. So it's important to make sure that you get somebody with the capacity to be able to do so.
Saying that, I'm glad that you've now stopped there with the police, right? Because I want us to then delve a little bit into that situation. You were the first, from what you're saying and how you've described your roles and what you have done over the years, you were the first to do a lot of things, right? And then you were the first female National Police Commissioner for South Africa. Did you feel the pressure? Was there pressure on you to perform well, especially because you are a civilian? You don't. You like you say, you come from a background of administration, but you've done other things besides policing. Did you feel that there was the pressure, especially because you're a female, and you then come into a space where people would be expecting that someone that is done police training would actually be the one to lead and be the National Police Commissioner?
So I'll tell you that of all the roles that I've done, there's always been pressure. Because remember, we were post-1994 women getting into these executive spaces. And I can start with Transnet on its own. When I went to the first top 50 executive meeting, we were 5 women. Top 300, actually. We were 5 women. It was myself, Felicia Mabuza, who else was there? Nomgando. We were 5 women. 1 was white, so we were 6. So in a pool of men. So everywhere I have been, whether you come to APSA and look at the EXCO at that point in time, we were about 3 women in a pool of about 14 men. Whether you came to the ports, when I went abroad to meet with other ports authorities and all those things, there are many days where I found myself being the only woman sitting in there. So it's even in the police, in 100 years of the establishment of that organ, I was the first woman to be there. So what shall I call it? I call it pathfinding. The pressure is there because there are so many stereotypes. If you look at I've just told you that my other predecessors were also not police, but the conversation never went there. The conversation became heightened once you started having a woman who is a non-police commissioner. Most of the people are then getting surprised when I tell them that there were many, and I don't end with the 3, I can give you more. There were many, white and black, who were not police, who were there holding leading positions. But because you're wearing a duke and not a cap, the conversation changes. And it brings with it a lot of pressure. Then what is your response? You must stand straight, tall, and firm to show that Tshego and Riah can do it. We owe it to the young girl who's sitting wherever she is sitting to crush the ceiling. It is the cardinal sin you will perform as a woman, and you will be punished for it. But even with that, they say brave people face adversity in the eyes. So when it comes, face it and still crush that ceiling, because you're not doing it for you. You're doing it for the many young Tsegos and the others that come after Tsego, because the path must be created. So in all I did, I just said, for whatever, the universe has placed me here to be a pathfinder, and I do it. Yes.
I'm going to touch on a point that, of course, a lot of people will still remember when it comes to Riah Phiyega as our National Police Commissioner, Marikana. What happened?
Very sad event. And let me start off by saying this. I'm going to just give you a quick analogy, and then I'll go back to say what happened. When July 16 happened in KZN, the conversation was not about General Stoll commanding what is happening in KZN. 400 plus people almost died in Marikana, 34 people, and I'm not doing whataboutism here. The reason I'm bringing that in order to go back to Marikana is that no national commissioner has a duty to command operations. We start there. If there is a heist at Maponya Mall, you will not find General Masemula there commanding what should happen. But you will get a commander that will be on site to be able to read the situation, to decide on what action needs to be taken. You can be staying in Pretoria and telling them that now take out R5 rifles, now lie on the floor. No, it doesn't work like that. So I want to go back to say the conversation got convoluted, and I want to argue that it got convoluted because of the duke and not the cap. And let me place that aside. Marikana. Marikana was a public order policing operation. And I'm going to take you to the law now so that I can be able to explain what the law requires in terms of public order policing. In public order policing, it is a regulated and something that is stipulated in the Act. It requires the National Commissioner, the role of the National Commissioner, firstly, is to ensure that that special unit, as indicated in the law, is established. In order for South Africa to be positioned to be able to respond to public order policing processes. Secondly, once that unit is established, the police commissioner is required to say, out of the 200,000 employees or establishment, segment some and dedicate them to the red badge, which is the public order policing. The third thing that the National Commissioner must do, must make sure that those people are well trained in order for them to be able to provide public order policing services wherever they are placed. The fourth thing that the National Commissioner must do, must make sure that they are equipped. You must make sure that through your procurement services, you've bought nyalas, you've bought radios, you've bought all those things, that they are able to be equipped. The fifth thing that the National Commissioner must do, must now be approached to say, I have 30,000 of them. I have trained them. They have the equipment. Each of the provincial commissioners must now come and justify to say, in my province, I need X number of them. The rate of public order incidences are the following. Then you start allocating. You don't just impose and say, take 10, take 20, take 30. It is informed by what is happening in that province. So once that is done, the Act then continues to say, once they are transferred and they are in the province, you do not have control upon them. The person who has control upon them is the provincial commissioner. And once they are even there, even the provincial commissioner of Northwest did not have control over that operation, because that operation must set up a special unit at the operation and have somebody who's heading that. They don't work alone. They work with many other people, people from the mine, people from health, people from other entities. And they must sit and draw up a plan of how they are going to mitigate what is happening there, whether it's July to 16, whether it's Marikana, whether it's Maponya Mall. And they must work according to a plan that they have put together and have adopted. It doesn't require the National Commission. It doesn't require that person. And by law, any time that I can override what is happening in that place, firstly, two things should happen. I can approach the president and say, President, the situation in Marikana has gone out of control. I am requesting that you draw back the powers that are with the provincial commissioner and give them back to me so that I can get ourselves to command what is happening there. The second thing that can happen is the president himself can approach the national commissioner to say, I've seen things going completely wrong in that area. So I want to withdraw the powers. I want you to step in. None of those things happened. Oh. So the operation was full and fully a provincial operation. What happened at head office was support. On the 15th of August, remember, it was 64 days then. On the 15th of August, we had a big management team meeting. And management team meeting is not operations team meeting. At the management team meeting, I meet with all the provincial commissioners. I meet with all the executive generals that I work with at head office. And what do? It's a pure management meeting. We're looking at our management issues. When we were at that meeting, during tea time, the provincial commissioner of Northwest says to me, you know, today we would have gone on with our operation to disperse those people, but we've been asked by the unions to say it looks like there could be a possible solution, so we didn't do it today. I will get feedback today from the operating person there, and we will see what to do. And she said to me, but we might need additional help, which is within the foray of us at head office. And this is why I explain this. If you want to borrow nyalas from the next province, or you want to borrow additional people from the other province, it can't be provincial commissioner to provincial commissioner. They have to talk to head office so that the head of operations can then look at the distribution of those resources and say, Gauteng, you seem to be having a silent time. Can you borrow them your nyalas? And I'm giving you this as an example because, for instance, each of the provinces at that time had only one water cannon each. Sure. So if she needed 2 water cannons, we needed to borrow it from somewhere. If she needed more public order policing people because the crowd is extensive, we need to borrow from somewhere. So the decision we took on the 15th was just to say, because all the provincial commissioners are here, let's sit together. Who has space to borrow who what? And at that day, they were able to commit through the head of operations to say, we will borrow you our nyala, 2 nyalas, we will borrow you so many people, we will support you with an additional water cannon. That's a decision that was taken on that day. Fast forward, Marikana happens. With the people that are there, with the operations that are there, and, you know, the unfortunate thing happens. People die. Fast forward, the commission comes. What does the commission say? The commission says, Phiyega did not tell the truth, or the Phiyega together with the senior people did not tell the truth. The truth about what? About the program that was agreed upon by those that were in operation? The truth about what? About the meeting on the 15th? And when you go to the day, I think it was the second or third day that I appeared in the commission, I say to the commissioner, but commissioner, if you go to this day, go and read the transcript. I tell you exactly what I'm telling you here. You probably have forgotten that I have told you, but it is there on the record. And the reason I wanted to appeal this was just to go back to those records, because you can go through that entire transcript. There is not a single witness that has ever said, Phiyega gave us an instruction to do whatever. And it's been many witnesses. Not a single witness that will say that. And if I had done that, then I should have been arrested, because I would have acted out of the law. I didn't have authority to give command on an operation such as that one.
Let's then speak, because we'll come to Safe SA Foundation, right? But because we're dealing with the police, we have now seen General Fani Masemola, he's now been suspended. I said that you are the first national police commissioner that we had, but now there's this lady that's acting, General Dimpane, who's now acting. But what do you make as Riah Phiyega sitting here today of the situation where we find ourselves as a country, where we have not had, if but one, if I'm not mistaken, police commissioner who has completed their term? What does that say about that office, that National Police Commissioner office?
I will say to you, it's a poisoned chalice.
Sure.
I question myself, what is needed to create stability in terms of leadership of that institution? And perhaps the answer lies in examining each of the reasons why we got where we are in terms of that stability. And when I do that exercise, I come to the conclusion that, yes, there could be areas where there is legitimacy in terms of doing that. But secondly, I come to the conclusion that there shall always be a design to destabilize that area, and I understand why. Policing is a very powerful role because it has the capacity to disenfranchise citizens. And what we're seeing today, as the ordinary citizens who are starting to understand that power, to say it's attractive, not only to the politicians, it's attractive to the criminals. That power source is wanted and can be used by many other people, many other sectors of society. And that, for me, introduces the contestation that lies in that portfolio.
What do you make of the corruption allegations that are coming out regarding the judiciary, or SAPS at the moment, because that is where we are sitting?
Look, what we're seeing in the Madlanga Commission, quite humbling. And also what we had in the ADO, quite humbling. But I think it's a very necessary revelation. It was necessary to come out so that it can texture the conversations we're having as a nation. It is important to start thinking much more intentionally and in depth, because this franchising of our right as citizens to just think that our safety, our security, our peace lies in the hands, I'll use Pretoria, meaning government of Pretoria, is completely misplaced. We at Safer South Africa Foundation hold the view that the involvement of society is crucial. The first police station is a home, and our safety is in our hands. Yes, we appreciate the fact that through the taxes that we paid, there are structures that have been put up, the police, the courts, and all those. They are very necessary. And our constitution wasn't wrong to establish those. But any society that thinks that we can sit and be on holiday and expect those structures to be optimal and be super successful, that society is wrong. It's important for all of us to stand up and invest effort in making safety, peace, and security our primary agenda. And I say so because, just think, when you are at home and you are with your kids, if you have, the first thing you do before you sleep, you want to know whether the gates are locked. You want to know whether the car is locked, garage is closed, everybody in the house locked, windows closed. In the morning, when they leave and go to crash, you just don't say, go out, your transport is there. You would have done your homework first before the beginning of the year to say, hey, friend, which transport do you use? Are they safe? And you would have vetted them before you say your child goes there. When they play in the street, you worry, you stress about the 2 taverns that are this side, and you say, no, don't play that side. Play up there or play inside the yard. That tells you that you're the first station commander of safety. You worry about what is happening at school. If you hear that at that school they're bringing knives, they're bringing guns, and you will be at the parents' meeting. You will be talking to the SGB. So I just want to say it's important for us to note as society that our involvement is primary. It is not tertiary. We have to be activists to ensure that there's safety. You go to our jails, 51% plus of the people that are there are young people. We must ask ourselves, what type of a nation are we that is producing for incarceration? It means there are things that we are missing. And it means those that teach and expose themselves to socialization of our children are winning in terms of crime. And if they can win, we then say as Safer South Africa Foundation, Riah and others have a role to play. Why don't we get into that space? Give our children, empower them with knowledge, and give them the ability to have enough information to make good choices about their lives. So with our security cluster partners, with the Department of Education, the Banking Association, Human Rights Commission, and other partners, Civilian Secretariat, other partners that we are having, we are out there to say, we want to fight in this space by giving education and awareness and win our young people back. It is President Mandela who once said, any nation that does not care for its future does not care for its youth. So we must care, protect, nurture our youth, empower them accordingly. We will not make choices for them, but they will make choices for themselves. But if we've empowered them, so whatever you're doing like today, it's an empowerment. And we will then know that longitudinally we would have contributed towards building upright, patriotic, crime-averse leaders of tomorrow. And it will deal with some of the issues you are asking me to say, what do we say about the corruption that is taking place? How do we counter it? By educating, by creating awareness. It might not all go away, but some of the drops that we would make will contribute towards the larger volume of the sea.
Did you, during your time as National Police Commissioner, have any inclination of the corruption that we are now hearing of?
Yes. At the time when I was a National Commissioner, I worked very closely with SARS to establish what we call an integrity unit. We did the research, we did everything, because SARS had a very good unit, and we had the leader of that environment coming to help us establish our one in the police. We were so advanced that we were even invited by the Public Service Commission to come and share our own model of how we are developing an integrity unit in SAPS. And I think those are some of the things that were not sitting pretty with the organization. What shall I say, the chalice that I spoke about. So that those things just fizzled. It's a number of programs that we had started that just fizzled. Issues around decentralizing power to ensure that power must lie with the police station and the leader of the police station and the cluster to ensure that policing and the powers are delegated there. They can't sit here at head office. We had started a process, and many companies had come on board, where we were talking about the frontline program that we were running. General Mkwanas was leading that. We were saying, let the police station be a place that gives confidence to the community. Let it be a place where, when you want to ask for salt, you're not going to be intimidated. You can even go to the police station, even if they don't have salt, as a citizen, because you would be trusting the place to say, I want to be here. I mean, we had companies like Old Mutual coming forward to say, we will give you the computers, we will give you the lights, we will do the painting, we will do that. So frontline service, there was a lot that was going on. We looked at training to start saying leadership is a game changer. If we don't change the leaders and empower them, we're not going to be able to get anywhere. I mean, we had embassies that had come on board. The Norwegian had taken the brigadiers that were leading the clusters. Old Mutual had taken our police stations, training them at their police college, at their management college in Cape Town. We had worked with UNISA to establish our college in Cape Town. Principal Makanya actually said to us, we have licensed the establishment of many universities, like the University of the North, like the University of Kwakwa. We launched that. And there was a first cohort of police that were doing a program, and I think they've graduated now. But all those things fizzled out. They were just saying, no, that's not what we're looking for. Sure. So it's those things. And without continuity and with this disruption, I would argue that General Masembla would have started certain things. Previous one, General Stolu would have started certain things. But because there is no continuity, the institution is on a perpetual starting mode.
Sure.
And it will not have traction in achieving what it's supposed to achieve. And, we even took executives to an executive development program. General Mkwanas was one of those, that went to vets. We spoke to vets. Vets designed a police, what shall I say, a customized program to include them in their executive development program. They even went to India, to wherever, and all those things. So those were the type of things we were doing. We had partnerships with China, Police Institute to work with us to do particular things. We were training, we were also helping countries like Sudan and others to come and meet with our people to be trained here. So there is a lot that was being done. When I have time, I'll just write about some of the
Please do.
things that that we did. And you asked me, I did say to you, if I still had years with me and I'm asked to do it, something that can be done, and it must be done. And I'm hoping that these processes will ultimately relieve the service to be able to do certain things that it needs to do But all these other shenanigans that are silhouettes are just binding this organization to move forward. Yeah.
Let's wrap up our policing conversation. Have you healed from Marikana and what people had said about you, to you, about that incident?
I've had a lot of conversations with myself. And one thing that I invest in is internal peace and internal congruence. And I came to a point where I'm able to say, as a leader of the police service, there were certain things that I took responsibility for. Moral responsibility. Moral responsibility because really nobody should lose their lives. And the loss of those lives, very unfortunate. But I was able to also deal with it by saying, actually, why should police be used as a shield for employers who are not able to engage with their employees about rational labor rights that they have? And I would argue that in Marikana, we had that type of situation. Secondly, I would argue that there were unions and the Department of Labor that needed to mitigate that. The police were just there to bring power, brute force. But the real people who needed to engage on that did not do your work. And the conversation did not go there. The third issue around that is that if you go to Marikana now, that commission that was set up had two parts. Look at what happened, but also look at the driving forces of what happened. The poverty levels remain. The underdevelopment of that area. When platinum is fetching these huge prices in the market. If you go to Australia, the miners are not poor. They have homes, they have houses, they have cars, they're paid better. Here, it's not happening. And the conversation is not there. The conversation is misplaced. And maybe for obvious reasons, because there were lives that were lost. I am urging South Africans to have the right conversations about what is the problem. The problem is not lying in one area. It is complex, and we need to have the right conversations. We can't be a mine-rich country, and those that assist this industry are left where they are. It cannot be right, and I do not hear the conversations strong enough dealing with it. The second issue is vicarious liability. I'll take vicarious responsibility and duty, because if you are a boss and those that you have employed get involved in things that are causing this consternation, that responsibility as a leader, I have said that I take vicarious responsibility, because the police that were there were employed by the police service. How was it treated? Up front, right from the beginning, as a police service, we did say to the powers that be that for that, whatever compensation that needs to be was accommodated in our budgets, and we made sure that we work collaboratively with the legal people that were appointed, and that is why vicarious responsibility was taken by us as a service.
Let's come to Safer South Africa Foundation. I feel like it's a soft spot for you. It's much more cushioned than what you're dealing with as the National Police Commissioner. 2018, you got here as the CEO of Safer South Africa Foundation. You're heading on to 10 years. What are you doing at Safer South Africa Foundation? You touched a little bit on it, but just share with us. And also, why did you decide that this is the point that you want to, this is where you want to be?
The many things I've done in life, I've been invited. So even here, I was invited. I think the last time I applied for a job was when I completed at the university.
Also, how does that feel?
It's a good one. I do like it because it actually says You're doing something that others are seeing. And by the time they come to you, they really believe that you can add value. So it jacks you up to actually say, I better add value. I wasn't just, called in because there's a sister, there's a brother, there's somebody I don't know. I was called because somebody believed that I can make a difference. So even here, I was invited. I was invited by the founders of this foundation. That is a POPRU, Prisons and Civil Rights Union. And their name tells a story. They are here to represent those that work in the police, those that work in corrections, those that work in traffic. Here and there they get into those that are in the borders and all that. But the civil rights part of it tells you that from the beginning, when they established themselves some 35 years plus, they believed that none of the people they represent can do the work alone. They have to work with the community. So in 2011, at their Congress, they decided that, you know what, we had this in our mind. Unless we give it wings and give it feet and give it hands, it's not going to fly. It's very rare that you find a union establishing a foundation. So POPCRU went on to say, we want to make it happen. We're not rich. We'll take our little donations that we get from our members and make sure that this foundation gets established and it goes out into the community to mobilize the community to be part and parcel of fighting crime. And we chose the youth as a platform to do so. Not that we don't go to the community at large, we do so. So we are in schools. And in schools, what are we doing? Spreading education and awareness. Do we teach as Safer South Africa Foundation? Absolutely not. We work with many partners, and it doesn't matter where we go. We work with the Department of Basic Education. We work with South African Police Service. We work with the traffic authorities. We work with the National Prosecuting Authority. We work with the magistrates in the Department of Justice. We work with Correctional Service. We work with Human Rights Commission. The Banking Association has come on board to say, unless they are educated and know about money, we will lose them. So in all the programs that we offer, these are our professors who go out to teach. And we are in 9 provinces, and it doesn't matter where we are. These partners with whom we have memorandums of understanding are there in their numbers to teach our young ones. And we have testimonies and feedback from the parents, from the schools, to say the attitude change and the behavior change where we intervene. They can see that. The demand is there. The money is a challenge. And if we had resources, we would scale this program and make sure that it is in all the schools. And then we also stick with these young ones because we want to create ambassadors who would go on in future to be the mouthpiece of evangelizing about not doing crime, choosing not doing crime. So we have also what we call a Youth for Safer South Africa Debate and Leadership Development Program. We take the ones that have participated in the program, who have written nice essays about what the school must do, what they should do, what the community should do to get safe. And we lift those thought pieces and we select those that then participate in this leadership development program. And we give them, they are in rural areas, and that would be in the following year. They are in rural areas, they don't have Toastmasters and all those. We've created our own. And we reach out to them, we prepare them to be eloquent, to be confident, to be evangelists that can preach with conviction. So then they would go through that program, and then, like this year, we're having something like 370 of them participating from over 26 schools. And out of those, they themselves will select their top performing team of 6. And now in September, we'll have our group public speaking festival of these young ones, and you would not know them after the 6 weeks.
Sure.
They are just wonders. So those are some of the things that we're doing.
Look, it really sounds like, being in corporate that you've done before, and then going to policing, and now with Safer SA Foundation, it sounds like it's something that you continuously want to do. That you continue to build the young people throughout your career. So, what legacy are you hoping to leave behind?
You know, I'm also part of an organization called the International Women's Forum. And basically, what we're saying, it's an organization that is global. And as women, what are we saying? We're saying what Tseho is doing is very right. Let's make sure that eminent women stand up and talk about what they're doing. And as we do so, we say to every young little girl to say, it can be done, and I can even venture into things that people like Tseho are venturing into that has never been done. And it's about building that pipeline. So as we, lift as you rise, and make sure, somebody who says it's one thing to go where there is a clear path. But what we are saying is go to those spaces where there are no paths and leave footprints for others to follow. And when I sit before you, so I just feel so proud that, they are young pathfinders. And because those people who came before us, Bome Brigalia Bam, and many others, showed us that it can be done. Let's stand up as women and make sure that that happens. And the other thing is just to say, as women, we are nurturers. Let's nurture our boy children and our girl children together and show them the way to say, you are the future. Men and women, go out there, take out your best, and build a beautiful South Africa and a beautiful world that we all belong to.
What do you do for fun?
Many things. Shall I call it fun? Maybe this one I'm not going to call fun.
Okay.
I'm very committed to take the skills that I've told you all along about of general management to organizations that think they don't belong there. I'll give you an example. My church. I am part of the Uniting Reformed Church in Atteridgeville. When I got married into that church. And when I joined that church, there was a young minister who had joined. That church had about 18 rand in the bank at the time. And with the knowledge I had of strategy, transformation of organizations, I sat with the council in the church. I sat with Muruti to say, this is a living organization. It is similar to ABSA.
It's a business.
It is similar to FNB. And all those principles that we use in building these big organizations, government and all those, apply here. We started going through, church strategy sessions, mission, visioning, all those things, and putting all those things. And Lekgotla has KPIs. And we have 6-point plans and all that. You know that church, if I tell you today, it is in Atteridgeville. They've built the biggest auditorium you can think of, other than the mall there, which I think it's not even as elaborate as our auditorium, which cost us lots and lots of money, 10 million that way. And it is self-funded by the congregation. And if I look at how that church council is being run, I sit there with pride, looking at them presenting their Fs, looking at them presenting their strategy report, looking at the commissions talking about their KPIs and whatever, looking at how the elections are run. I mean, we introduced, the IEC comes to our election to support what we are doing. And those are the type of things that gives me energy, to go to organizations and say, we can transform them and do particular things. I gym.
Okay.
I am a woman, Manyano person.
Ah.
I like my grandchildren and my family. I have 2 daughters and a very, 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 if you are going to grow as a woman and you're married, you better have a cheerleader. And that cheerleader has to be a husband who's not afraid of your strength, but who encourages you to go on. And I also want to thank most profoundly, and I tell every woman that if you don't have somebody in the home to give you support, a helper, and there must be a live and let live process because she also has a family. Make sure that as you educate your children, her children are educated. Make sure that as you enjoy your bonus and your salary, you pay her well. She's able to build herself a house. So that carried me. If I didn't have the women I had in my life, I've had in my whole life, I've had only 2 women helping me. One 23 years, the other 25 years. And if I look at where they are with their children are graduates. They've built themselves houses. They have good savings. They've done certain things because I realized that as I fly around to do all these things, there must be somebody, and I sleep comfortably because I know that that woman understands where we are and keeps the home. And I know that her family sees me as an extension. When they say there's a funeral, they'll be expecting Maria to be coming also, not only to attend, but to also come and work at the home, to peel with the people, to cook, to ensure that you contribute like a family member. So that for me is something that we should see. Don't never see it as your extension, see it as support, but also see yourself as support of those people.
To wrap up our conversation, before we went to air, we laughed a lot because you are a funny lady. Where do you get the sense of humor?
I think it came with the DNA. I don't know where it comes from. I'm a very simple person, and I relate easily with everybody. To me, I have a very simple philosophy in life. I call it ICE. ISE. One is integrity. Strongest currency in my life. And I want to say to you, you can go up and down, Tseho. You would never find the word corruption next to my name. Because I believe in integrity. It stood with me throughout life. And it doesn't matter what adversity I faced, because of that currency, I'm able to stand up and continue and do many other things. And I'm able to explain myself because there's no doubt, there's no shadow. So I'll tell every woman that your integrity is your biggest currency. Don't, skimp on that one. The second one, I really believe in what I call service for others before self. That's what this stands for. Wherever I go, I really want to make a difference for others. And I believe that's the ethos of life. We're not here for ourselves. We're here to make a difference in others' lives. And there are many others who are making a difference in our lives. So that service for others before self becomes very important. And I stretch it across, whether it's in my home, whether it's the work I am in, whether it's in the church, whether it's with people I associate with. And that crafts a lot around how I'm able to relate easily, up and down and parallelly, and you won't even feel me when I'm in your space. And I don't want to feel anybody. The moment I start feeling somebody else, I know that there is a disjuncture in the ethos of what I believe in. The last one is excellence. I believe, any opportunity you have in life, is an opportunity. You're not, it's not entitled. Whether it's being a mother, whether it's being at Safer South Africa Foundation, whether it's being at the police, whether it's being a member of that church, if I have an opportunity, I believe I must express myself thoroughly and fully on that opportunity. So that's where the excellence come in to say, I'd like to give it my best shot anytime and make sure that as I look back to say, look, I tried. I might not have reached the pinnacle, but I've given it my best.
Well, let me thank you for your time this morning. They really appreciate it. What a pleasure to speak to you. Phiyega joining us on Conversations with Eminent Women. I hope you've learned a thing or two. Let's also live by her values of ICE, integrity, service for others before self, and excellence. Thank you so much for joining us on Conversations with Eminent Women today. Let's do it again next time. But remember to also like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. From myself, Moahi, and the whole team, thank you for watching. Remember, wherever you go, whoever you encounter, just be kind and protect your peace. Bye-bye.